We're good.
Are we back?
We're back. Sorry about that.
Oh,
folks.
thank God. Technical difficulties.
Thank you for bearing with us.
Yeah,
Fucking
through our
These
technical
difficult times.
difficulties. Yeah, these difficult times.
And now,
Well.
now Amanda can't get back on.
Seriously?
Shit.
Jesus
Anywho,
Christ.
so where were we?
Where were we?
We were
I don't
talking
even
about
fucking
SmackDown.
know. Yeah, we were talking about what's her face?
Bailey.
And nothing of this draft, nothing in the last 2 weeks of WWE programming has made any lick of sense.
Well, let me ask you this. Outside of the results of the draft really not making much sense, and we'll dive more into it. You guys were there were a lot of complaints about people just not liking the draft or liking the way it was done. Yeah. I actually, and that's, I kind of want to dive more into that, because me personally, I actually didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was quick. It wasn't drawn out. You know, Stephanie came out and, you know, here's Raw, SmackDown, boom, 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 boom. They didn't come out and wear the shirt, or, you know, it was just, and there was different segments. I don't know. To me, it didn't bother me that much. I will tell you, I will say, hold on. I will say this, and then I give it back to you. The one thing that drove me fucking bonkers more than anything with that fucking draft were the fucking boardrooms.
Yes.
It just, looked,
that was the worst of it.
The acting is just, I mean, at least make me feel like it's real. Make me feel like it's real. The acting was so fucking bad. It was cheesy. You damn well know they weren't execs from either of the networks. Although they did have some say, like I know that Fox was like, I want Fiend on Fox, and that's why they moved him over. But it's like, that was bad. But outside of that, to me, I didn't think the draft was so bad. Go ahead, tell me what you think.
That definitely was the worst of it for sure.
Yeah, it felt like
it was very corny.
It's kind of a lot. This is more of a larger scale WWE problem, but it feels like it doesn't matter. Like, all these people could get drafted to SmackDown or Raw, wherever the fuck, and then next week, a Fox executive or USA executive or Vince McMahon or whoever the fuck, Bruce Pritchard, gets a hair across their ass, and somebody gets moved from Raw to SmackDown. Oh, they got traded for Buddy Murphy, or oh, they got traded for Kalisto, or whatever the fuck, and then they're just on SmackDown or Raw. There's no, after this wild card rule thing, unless this is a really, really hard brand split that they're going to honor, it just
the women's tag team titles.
Right. It just doesn't feel like anything. Even NXT, and not to get too far ahead, NXT feels like it doesn't matter either, because one day Vince McMahon could just decide to call up Keith Lee, change his name to Foxy Brown, and he's a guy that just loves to dance and have fun. And then all of a sudden, your favorite fucking wrestler is some asshole. Yeah. It just, nothing feels like it matters. And that's the disheartening thing. Even the guys, we didn't even get reactions from the guys that got drafted. What if somebody was mad about going to Raw or SmackDown because they split up with their tag team partner? Carmella and R-Truth got split up. We didn't get any fucking reaction from them.
I remember when they split up the Dudley Boys?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but hold on. You damn well.
Needs to be a whole thing.
Listen,
give me 10 seconds.
Hold on. Here's the thing. You have to. I agree with you, but at the same time, they're trying to keep the talent happy. And a lot of them are in real life relationships, you know? Yeah. So you got Carmella with Corey Graves, so they want to keep them together. You got Charlotte with Andrade, so you want to keep them together. You've got Aleister Black with Selena, Vega, so they got to keep that, you know? So it's like they're trying to appease everybody, but at the same time, somebody's going to have to get the split. If it's R-Truth and Carmella, it sucks. But here's the deal, though. Champions are still on either show. So if you're a 24/7 champion, you can still show up on SmackDown. Am I missing, or am I wrong?
Then why does it matter? Why does it matter that Seth is the Raw champion and Brock's the SmackDown champion if they're just going to come in one day and go, hey, I want to be on this show now? Like, the reason it's aggravating is we all know it's a show, and we know that writers make these decisions and Vince McMahon makes these decisions, and it's not like a draft. That's why the draft, I think, kind of falls wrong on everybody. It doesn't seem quite right, because in a draft, like with the NBA, you didn't know where Zion was going until you found out who won number 1 in the draft lottery, and then they made that selection, and nobody made a trade at last minute to trade up to the number 1 spot to give them some players, and like then they want because they wanted Zion. Like there's none of that drama because it's not real. If they just said, hey, we put this shit into the raw general manager computer and pressed random, and this is the draft, I'd almost accept it a little bit more because you're right. There was nobody in the Fox thing that was a real Fox executive. There was nobody in the USA war room that was a real executive. The Fox one had goddamn Clyde from Sunday Night Football, a dancing CGI football robot, high-fiving people and talking to them. How the fuck do you have a CGI robot talking to people? Like, where do I know it's wrestling and it's fake, but where's the fucking silliness line? Like, where is this break? I'm at the point where I just don't. I'm so fucking over it. I want to watch like tonight. I want to sit down. I want to watch NWA Power. I want to watch AEW Dark, and then tomorrow I want to watch Dynamite because I feel like fucking AEW at least shit matters. Like none of this. I get no sense of any of this. Fucking next week, Bray's gonna come back out with the Firefly Funhouse like nothing ever happened. Like it didn't get burned down. You know what I mean? Like Ramblin' Rabbit's just going to come back to life. I'm like, hey guys, we're just going to go with Firefly
It's a Kenny from South Park thing.
I mean, since you brought that up, we need to jump right to that then because I just the Firefly Funhouse was supposed to be a place that was like untouchable. Like you couldn't.
It wasn't supposed to be real,
right?
It was a theoretical in his brain thing.
They killed the whole thing now.
So the Firefly Funhouse is in Colorado. All you had to do was drive around Denver a little bit until you ran into the goddamn place. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just
I don't get it. I just they're doing so many things right with the Fiend, and then they started this thing with Seth Rollins, and it's been a train wreck. And it's no fault to Seth Rollins or Bray. It's solely the fucking writing.
No, it killed Seth Rollins dead. Nope. Like, I don't give a shit about Seth Rollins anymore.
Guys, it's like a double turn at this point.
I mean, that's what even Brian Alvarez on Twitter last night was like, this is a double turn, right? And then people are like, no, he's a babyface because that guy was the heel, so he had to burn his house down. And it's like, it just doesn't matter. Like, as soon as that stupid, and I was not around, I wasn't feeling good. As soon as that stupid Hell in a Cell happened, the way that it happened, they killed the Fiend. They killed Seth Rollins' babyface run. They killed the Universal title. They killed the Firefly Funhouse. They killed the Hell in a Cell, a 20-year institution of wrestling, the Hell in a Cell, and they treat it like a goddamn joke because the little hammer was illegal, but the big hammer that fucking could crush somebody's head. No, we can use that one, but we can't use the little hammer. The fuck?
It didn't. I agree with you up until a point. It did not kill the Fiend. At the end of the day, the Fiend still looked so completely badass from that entire thing.
From laying on a stretcher? And having a bunch of fucking power tools on top of him for 20 minutes?
Dude, how many fucking stomps did he kick out of? How many? Like, at the end of the day, listen, the finish was absolutely horrific. Yeah. We talked about this. It was absolutely horrible. Yeah. But the match itself wasn't that terrible. And The Fiend, to me, looked very good. Then they followed it up with, on SmackDown, The Fiend doing old school Undertaker.
Pulling him down
coming from, underneath the ring and pulling him out, and then coming out and looking like a little groundhog and looking around. Like, that was fucking cool. And then they ruin it with burning down the fucking, to me, that ruined all of Raw for me.
Yeah, it's like, Seth, that's not what we wanted when you keep saying burn it down. Don't burn that down.
Yeah, it's just...
That's the one thing we didn't want burned down.
I don't know how you save Seth Rollins at this point, aside from turning him heel and then going around the loop again and trying it again some other time. Like, I just don't know. Because
he is the heel. He got booed out beyond all.
That's what I'm saying. He's getting booed everywhere he goes. He got booed at Hell in a Cell, and that Hell in a Cell match is not what anybody wanted out of that match. The match should have been fucking 5 minutes long.
Bray annihilating Seth.
Right, 2 or 3 curb stomps. He sits up like the Undertaker, hits the Sister Abigail, puts him in the mandible claw. Fucking match is over. If you want to not put the belt on him, he puts the mandible claw on. Seth bleeds, and the fucking referee stops it, and then you do the stoppage that way. At least it kind of somewhat maybe could possibly make sense.
100% would have been a much better finish.
But to end the Hell in a Cell, not just Hell in a Cell, a pay-per-view that people pay money for. And I know that our dollar is worth less because we only pay $9.99 a month now. But for something that people pay money for, to pull the rug out from under them at hour 3, not even hour 4, if you've been watching since like 6 o'clock in the afternoon and it's 10:30 at night and you just want to watch this match that's supposed to be a main event match, you got screwed.
Dude, you should totally go back and listen to last week's show because I said the same thing. And at the same time, you know, my point was there was only really one match that I was fully invested in for that entire pay-per-view, and it was that match. That was the only match I truly gave a shit about. I didn't really care about anything else. To me, I was willing to wait until the very end of the show because that was the match I couldn't wait to see. And then we got a finish. We have had Hell in the Cell matches where Mick Foley has gotten launched off the fucking top, through a table, tooth popped up through the top lip, dislocated fucking shoulder. He pops the fucking thing back in, and he climbs back up to get chokeslammed through, and then through the ring. All this shit that never stopped the fucking match, but a fucking sledgehammer on a toolbox on top of 10 chairs. That we decide to stop in a Hell in the Cell. It just... There had to be a different way, and that's all I kept saying last week. There had to be a different way, and they know they fucked up.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, they somewhat recovered with what they did on SmackDown, you know, because that was a great segment, and then they burned down the Firefly Funhouse, and part of me says maybe they shouldn't bring back the Firefly Funhouse because it got burned down, but then the other part of me says, you have to have them rebuild the Firefly Funhouse. Like
that was the whole point of the character, was that he lived in his head and he had this fantasy.
The separation of the two characters.
He didn't, and Seth didn't even like. If Seth hit the lamp that looks like Bray's head, if he hit the lamp or lit it on fire, and the lamp, because the lamp is Bray's head and it's the Fireflies, and that's the physical representation of the mental Firefly Funhouse. If he destroyed that, like you would destroy the Undertaker's urn, it would at least make some kind of sense in an artistic manner of how you would write a fucking fiction story. At least there's some kind of nuance there. This was just, I'm going to show up to this place that nobody knows where it is, and it might not be real, and light it on fire. And it just, I tell you,
and now they're going to have them fight again at the Crown Jewel.
Yep. And so Seth's getting...
Even what you said still doesn't make sense because the premise behind it was that was supposed to be what's in his head. Like the
exactly. Well, exactly.
Like the split personality in his head. So how the fuck did you find the split personality?
No, none of it makes it. Can I tell? I had an idea. I never liked the idea of anybody else showing up on Firefly Funhouse aside from Bray and his imaginary friends, the puppets, because I feel like, again, that's him making things up.
Right.
And kind of it's his reality. So if he wants to beat up the bunny for Ramblin' Rabbit for saying good things about Seth Rollins, he can do that, and there's no consequences because it's in his mind, all this shit. All right, that aside, I had an idea for this Hell in a Cell thing or whatever they want to do as a way out. In the middle of the Hell in a Cell, Bray sends Rollins through the ring. Instead of pulling him down, he sends him through, kind of like how The Undertaker would send somebody to hell. And then you cut, and this is a little weird, so stick with me. You cut to a wrestling ring in the middle of the Firefly Funhouse. So here's what I mean. Do you remember Weird Al's movie UHF?
UHF, yes.
Where he was a children's TV host. You get to drink from the fire hose, and there's like one bench full of 10 kids who are all bored looking, and he's doing this really cheesy. That kind of set, put the wrestling ring in, maybe look, it could look like NWA Power, like this little wrestling set with a little thing of bleachers, but all the kids are like zonked out, zombie looking, creepy little kids cheering for the Fiend. So he pulls Seth into the ring. You do a cut to this fucking video where he's now pulled, instead of Seth finding it like he's goddamn Indiana Jones, the Fiend pulls Seth into the funhouse. You have a little wrestling match there where you cut to these zombie little kids all kind of clapping for the Fiend, but they're creepy. And like the puppets could come up and interfere and whatever. And then when Bray hits the Sister Abigail, you do one of those camera cuts. So the guy that slides in to make the 3 count is another, either the Fiend or Bray Wyatt, because it's one Bray that's the real Bray and one Bray that's the Bray in his head. And that guy makes the 3 count and they act like he won. But then you come back and say, well, that didn't happen. It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. I don't know. But that's a way out of it that doesn't involve making the Fiend look like a piece of shit.
WWE, if you are listening to this podcast, you need to hire this son of a bitch, because that would have been a hell of a fucking storyline, not the bullshit that we're getting right now.
It's little things, man. The little things affect the big picture. The little, 100%. Like a finish. One finish made me think an entire 3-hour pay-per-view stunk when it had a really good women's Hell in a Cell match with Becky and Sasha, and a couple other really good matches. But it sours your experience. And Raw, not that Raw was anything brilliant, but it ends on such a fucking fart in the middle of church that how are you excited for next Monday?
It's like if you go to dinner and the dessert sucks, that's all you're gonna remember, because that's
right. If you find a hair in your ice cream right at the end of the meal, you're like, oh, that meal stunk.
All you're gonna remember.
Yeah, you'll definitely remember.
I think the other problem too with Raw is, like, I don't give a flying fuck about Ryan Fury and Braun Strowman.
Oh, Tyson Fury, Braun Strowman? No.
Tyson Fury, whatever the fuck his name is.
Ryan Fury is the owner of the New England Pro Wrestling School.
I could give a flying fuck about that. So they're wasting our time with that. We did get the Viking Warriors take the tag titles, which was awesome, and one of the very few highlights of the show. Yeah. But
Andrade versus Ali was pretty good too.
That was a good one. I did enjoy that match. That was a good one. I mean, they did have a few good matches. The other thing that I just drove me crazy, again, going back to it, because the draft continued on Raw, were those goddamn boardrooms. It was just so poorly done. They should have just not done that.
I saw something on Twitter, right, regarding the draft, some idea about R-Truth, and I'm listening to this. This is hysterical, actually, where, you know how R-Truth gets, confused a lot? Like, my bad, and, he thinks it's a ladder match, but it's the Royal Rumble or something like that, some shit.
Right.
So, yeah. Something like where he thought it was like an army draft or something. Instead, so
he's back out in his Confederate
uniform, trying to get him into the military or something, and he gets all...
drafted? I'm not getting drafted. I can't go to no Vietnam. Like,
that would have been really funny.
That's great.
Oh, that would have been great.
That's so R-Truth,
Yeah. Now, guys, I want to pitch something to you. Not that I'm Mr. Ideas, but they already involved, which is cool. They had NBC for the USA side. They had a bunch of NBC hosts of like the morning shows and the news shows, and the fucking Jim Cramer was on, and Al Roker and all that. And then the Fox News guys and the Fox Sports guys, you had like Joe Buck announcing stuff.
That was cool.
Like Terry Bradshaw and...
Right. But what if they just, instead of Stephanie coming out, what if, Joe Buck or whoever, or Terry Bradshaw says all this stuff and then goes, with the 6th pick in the 2nd round, SmackDown selects...
Right.
You save time. You combine. Stephanie didn't need to walk out and read it went the exact same way. With pick number 1, Raw is going to burn it down with Seth Rollins. Pick number 2, he's the Beast, and it's not it's a spoiler. He's going to win. Brock Lesnar. Everything was just, she likes to hug Bailey. Like, it was just, she read their corporate catchphrase and then announced the person's name.
Not to mention that half the shit was spoiled on the fucking WWE website of the order of how people were getting drafted.
Somebody took the actual draft list. This is the story that I've heard. They took the list and the order that it was going in, emailed it to their website team, and said, alphabetize this list and put it up online.
Wow.
Nobody alphabetized it. They copied it exactly as they saw it in the email and pasted it into the article on the website and hit publish.
Well, that's someone that's being wished well in future endeavors.
Somebody, I don't know if it's the
One
person
job.
or what. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. That's crazy. Before we get into Wednesday, we always say shit goes down Monday and Tuesday for us, and we get fortunate, or in this case, maybe not so fortunate news, but Eric Bischoff is out and Pritchard is in. Yeah, apparently he's been issued
as
the best
of like
in his
2 hours
endeavors.
ago.
Yeah, he's been released.
He uprooted his whole fucking thing from where he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. And he made a statement already, and it wasn't and it wasn't like a sour type of deal. Like, he was very complimentary. So I don't know.
He's not back.
No.
He's not better than ever. Fucking poor guy. Yeah, I think who said it that they were probably fucking scapegoats.
I did. Yeah, Heyman and Bischoff were hired because so they could be fucking scapegoats for the ratings tanking.
Yeah, but Payman's not going to go anywhere. I mean,
Well,
No,
I don't know.
But Heyman got everything he
Fucking
wanted.
Trump's administration at this point.
Well, true.
Heyman got everybody he wanted in his draft. From what I'm seeing online is that Fox, Eric Bischoff's role was to be the liaison between Fox, a major network, and the WWE. Paul Heyman was more on the creative side. This guy, Eric, was specifically brought in because he had experience dealing with national networks.
And
he didn't get
that went.
Yeah, he overpromised and underdelivered in his tenure, which is not his fault because I'm sure when he said, "Hey, I'll get you Becky and Charlotte," who were on all the fucking commercials for SmackDown, and all these people listed for SmackDown, and then you look at the actual draft, and none of them are on the show except for The Fiend and Roman Reigns. Like, all the commercials have Raw superstars on it now. So I'm sure when this happened, Vince was like, "Oh yeah, sure, you'll get whoever you want in your draft. Make Fox happy." And then 2 weeks later, Vince was sitting on the toilet and changed his mind and sent a text message to Eric that we're changing the whole draft around. That's just the nature of the business. And by virtue of that, all of the changes that happen so quickly, it reflects poorly on Eric when he has to go back to Fox and say, "Hey, all of these things that I promised aren't happening." It's not necessarily his fault, but he's the person that has to deal with the fallout of all of these changes. And now, of course, Bruce Pritchard trips over his dick and falls into another big-time position with the WWE, as is tradition. The mighty books say every 10 years or so, Bruce must return.
Yeah, look, I love.
I'm okay with it.
I love and respect Bruce Pritchard. However, let's be honest, he's a fucking yes man.
And that's why he has the job.
Right. That's why Kevin Dunn's been there forever.
Kevin Dunn's been there forever because there was a fire at WWE headquarters, and Kevin Dunn's dad took what was then a very small tape library and stored it in the trunk of his car so it didn't get burned down with the rest of the building. And ever since then, Vince McMahon has made sure that Kevin Dunn has not been out of a job. It is what it is. Nepotism, or whatever you want to call it.
From what I understand, though, Triple H and Stephanie are not big fans of his, though.
No, because if you watch AEW, and now here's the deal. With the way ratings are going, it's a marathon, not a sprint, as WWE said, sure. But in the last 2 weeks, AEW Dynamite is not competition to NXT, and NXT is not competition to Dynamite. NXT is not even on the fucking radar. AEW right now is competition to Raw and SmackDown with the numbers that they're getting.
Right, just because it's on the same night as NXT.
Right. But if you watch AEW, when somebody dives out of the ring, or if there's a big move, does the camera shake like you're in a goddamn Michael Bay movie? No. Like they shoot it differently.
Let's get into AEW though, because like I already off the bat they put together this fucking faction that's awesome.
The Bubbly Club, the Inner Circle.
Swagger looks like he's like bigger than everybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
is.
I will say, and I made it a point to say this last week, and I'm going to say it again. It doesn't matter the ratings. If you are a true wrestling fan, fuck the ratings. It is a great time to be a fan because now you have an alternative and you can still watch both and be happy and you can shit on one and like the other. Listen, I will always be a WWE guy. I will always try and see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I will always, love and support the product even if I hate it. That's just how I am. But at the same time, I will say AEW was the best wrestling on television for the entire week. Hands down.
Oh, yeah. And here's the thing. The wrestling on NXT is arguably better. You know what I mean? Like NXT, their whole thing was to poach the best independent talent and put them into a developmental program to eventually become main roster WWE superstars. They've done that. They've taken most of the big names off the indies. And they produce very good matches. And I'm sure Adam Cole versus Matt Riddle, which I haven't watched yet because I'm behind on NXT because I've been watching AEW live, was a really good match. But you look at NXT, it's still treated, even though they say it's a main roster show, it's still treated like the third brand. It's always filmed in that one building at Full Sail in Florida. There's always the same 400 people. It's like the Impact Zone. You see the same fans sitting in the same seats for fucking 5 years in a row. You're like, oh, okay, this is like some small-time rinky-dink thing. And then you go to AEW that has, 10,000 seat buildings, and it looks like a professional, and there's fucking pyro, and there's lights, and there's this tunnel entrance, and weird thing.
You know as well as I do, though, it's only a matter of time before NXT starts going on the road.
There's only apparently a lot of people want to leave Full Sail.
Yeah, because there's only so much you can do. Full Sail has a great facility for a university and for learning and for
right, the performance center. And all that.
Right, that's wonderful. And that's a great thing to have. But they do need to, if they want to try and compete, it's got to go on the road.
NXT does do house shows.
And listen, right. NXT shows are going to sell tickets. People still get excited for NXT, and they are still putting on a hell of a product. When you talk about Wednesday night, I enjoyed NXT, hands down, start to finish. I enjoyed the entire show. I still think AEW, and it's very possible just that it's just newer and it's exciting. But to me, AEW put on a better show. But that's not to take away. The matches in NXT were fantastic.
Well, think about this, Steve. Becky Lynch, very good wrestler. Charlotte Flair, very good wrestler. We've seen them wrestle 1,000 fucking times between 2015 and now, to the point where 2/3 of the WrestleMania main event wrestled a match that opened up Raw that nobody gave a shit about. It's not special anymore. These two girls should be a special occasion when they wrestle. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, I'm talking about NXT.
But this is it's all in the same vein of things that don't matter. Like one day Adam Cole is going to get called up to the main roster or 205 Live because he's 4 feet tall. You know what I mean? Like Johnny Gargano. You think Johnny Gargano is going to go in there and wrestle Big E or Baron Corbin? All the short jokes for Shorty Gable.
Well,
Adam
listen,
Cole and Johnny Gargano were going to go up there and get fucking murdered on the main roster.
I think if we're talking about Adam Cole specifically, I think the only appropriate way to bring him up is you have to bring up the entire Undisputed Era. And you have to have them do some type of invasion during a Raw or Smackdown where they come running through the crowd and they attack somebody or attack a couple people, that's going to eventually happen. But I think they're going to keep them. I think somebody like Adam Cole, I think they're going to keep on NXT for a while. I think they need him there. I think they need the Undisputed Era there right now.
Oh, absolutely.
So
especially because they're all the champions.
And what I will say is this: I feel like if they were going to bring them up now, it would have happened during the draft. So the fact that it didn't, and I will also say this about the draft too, there have been rumors now for quite some time of potentially splitting the New Day, and they were officially drafted together. So I feel like that ship has sailed. I think they are making the decision to keep them together because this would have been the opportunity to split them. And yes, they are worth the money. They moved them to Fox for a reason. They're gonna do well there. But
yeah, I do have a nitpick about that people have pointed out. It seems like Kofi doesn't really care that he lost his championship, and he's content to go back to throwing pancakes and shaking his ass.
I mean, it just seems yes and no. Like they couldn't have him during the Susan G. Komen thing say like, "I lost my title." Like
yeah,
he has to say positive for that.
Right, but there's no evolution.
Vince,
that's what I'm saying. By things don't matter.
Vince, it's the power of positivity.
But he should want the title back. Like he shouldn't just be content to go play video games with Xavier Woods on Up Up Down Down. He was a world champion.
But who wants
power?
Kat, what was that?
I was gonna say, who wants to go out and whatever power, positivity, and go, yeah, I was champion for this month and I just got squashed by Brock in 2 seconds. Let's find the positive in that.
Listen, I happen to agree with you, but at the end of the day, they took away the whole rematch clause. So, they know, listen, it's not like they were going to do anything with him now going back after the title anyway.
Right, like it's like a start all over.
Right, it's almost like this draft, I think, is like, all right, everyone, forget about what's been going on minus a few little things.
Like a reboot.
Right.
Well, they've had like 4 of those this year.
Yeah, they did.
There was the Vince McMahon comes out and says Baron Corbin sucked as general manager, so we're going to change everything for you. And then there was the season premiere.
4 times
Raw.
the charm, Vince. 4 times the charm.
There was a new SmackDown. Listen, I'm hoping. I'm not one of those people that's like, this company needs to fucking go out of business. I hope everybody gets fired and loses their jobs and they're homeless. That's not me. I want the people that I know in wrestling business to succeed.
I want everyone to succeed. Yeah.
Because and this is the thing. Have you noticed? And I'm sure you have. Everybody's noticed. Since AEW started, Vince McMahon and WWE have been doing all this weird shit that they haven't done since WWE went out of business. They haven't done any of it because they never had any true competition. They didn't need to shake things up. Now they're trying to, Vince McMahon, there's no way in the PG era and Linda running for office and all this other happy horse shit would they have Bobby Lashley dicking down Rusev's wife live on television.
Right.
This is a new thing. Like they're trying. Right. Maybe the new. I'm glad we're all on board with this. We all know the terms. But it's.
I need an English lesson. No.
No, you don't. I don't think you need it. I think if somebody says blacked, you pretty much. That's it's called a context clue, kids. We learned those in English class. But
what the cuck is going on?
What the cuck? It's just such weird. They tried the pregnancy thing, which I think was. After all the stuff of taking Maria's last name and being like an afterthought to her on the main roster, I think this thing of who's the real father finally got to Mike Bennett.
Yeah, we should address that. That's a good segue. We should address.
Mike Bennett asked for his release because he says he wants to work for his money, which is great.
Can't blame him at all.
He just signed a 5-year contract extension. How do you sign a 5-year contract extension and then ask to leave? You can't do it. I guess you can, but he's going to be non-competed for what? Till the end of the contract, unless he works it out.
Well, so listen, so he'll work something out. He'll have to, he'll spend time with the baby, and then he'll show up in AEW, or he'll go back to Ring of Honor and reunite with Taven.
Yeah,
which
Ring of Honor needs him. Ring of Honor's doing so bad right now.
NWA could use him too.
Which at the end of the day, I feel like it's so much better for him. They weren't doing anything with him. The storyline with Maria is so stupid. And it looks like Maria's staying, by the way. It doesn't look like... so, I don't know.
And they moved it to the Lashley thing anyway, so...
Right, they kind of took the cuckold storyline and moved it on to somebody else, which is nice, but...
Here, Rusev. Here you go.
But Mike Bennett, so... For the most part, we've all watched Mike's indie stuff. Steve and I had a little bit of a closer look, I think. We were very present during his time on the indies. When you watched Mike Kanellis, whatever they want to call him on TV, when you watched him on Raw or wherever, the 5 times he was on Raw talking about whether or not the child was of his wife of 5 years. But anyway, you looked at him and you go, that's not Mike Bennett. That's not what the Mike Bennett I know can do in the ring. That's not the promo I know.
Even his stuff in Impact was better than.
I mean, let me tell you right now, despite what you have seen over the past, however, couple years he's been back, he is such a great fucking wrestler, and this did him no justice. He's so much better than what they've portrayed. And that's the truth. You look at him now on Raw and you're like, oh, he's a fucking jobber. Mike fucking Bennett's no jobber. And when he gets back to Ring of Honor or he goes to AEW, you're going to see the Mike Bennett that they should have fucking had in WWE, and they'll want him back in a few years, and it might be too late.
I feel like they should have had him in NXT to begin with.
That didn't make any sense for me either. He shows up on SmackDown once, and then you don't.
Look, I love him, but he's not AJ. He's not an AJ Styles, where
he should have started. I think it would have helped the WWE audience get used to him, because a lot of the NXT people, the people that follow NXT, are people that follow independent wrestling. So when Mike Bennett makes his debut in NXT, they're going to treat him like a big deal because they already know who he is.
They never gave him a chance.
No, they really never. They gave him zero shot. And this is a guy.
And the gimmick sucked.
Oh, the gimmick sucked from the beginning.
Taking her last name and all that. It was stupid.
When Ring of Honor signed Mike Bennett, he was a heel. He was a bad guy in Ring of Honor, specifically because Ring of Honor fans looked at him, looked at his gear, looked at how in shape he was, and the way that he wrestled, because he didn't do the flips and the dives and the Hurricane Ranas and all that shit. He wrestled the WWE style, the big man throwing forearms, kind of lock up. That's the kind of wrestling he did. They booed him because they said this guy should be in WWE. They're like, we don't want him because he doesn't fit the Ring of Honor mold. He should just be in WWE. And then he gets to WWE and they fuck it up.
Yeah, look at EC3.
Oh God. And this is a guy, okay. Go back and listen to old shows. I didn't like EC3. I was
always a fan for EC3.
I feel so bad for that guy, because he could have stayed with Impact, and Impact could have used him. Ring of Honor could have used him. He could have gone and wrestled in Japan. He could be on AEW right now. He could be the NWA champion because he was friends with Billy Corgan. He could do anything he fucking wanted, but he's wrapped up in this contract where they don't. Why sign a guy and not let him wrestle? Let him fucking wrestle. And then if people don't like how he wrestles or talks or looks, then you fucking get rid of him. You don't just hoard somebody under a contract so they sit there and eat your catering for 3 hours a night and then fly home.
I became a fan of EC3 with his feud with Matt Hardy in TNA. That's when I truly became a fan of him, and he's just such a wasted talent right now. It's sad. And I agree with you, Vince, 100%. Why sign him then? Let him go. Let him be productive somewhere else, because he is talented. He's good on the mic. He's good in the ring. He's got a body. I mean, he's a total package. Listen, I'm not saying he's like the greatest, but he's talented. He's good at what he does. They're dropping the ball with him. They are.
Yeah. But speaking of which, though, did anybody see Ride Along? Because you had EC3 with Spud and Braun, and on the other one you had the Mike and Maria.
It was one of the funniest ride-alongs I've ever seen. I watched it today.
I'll definitely go back and watch that.
That's great.
Well, Spud and EC3 have been friends since TNA days, and having Braun. If you haven't gone on YouTube lately, there's a video Braun was just in from Bon Appetit. Bon Appetit's a magazine and a website. It's about cooking. But he was doing a video where it's called Back to Back Chef. So a chef is like cooking a lobster roll, and he has to follow along on another station, but he can't see what the chef is doing. So the chef, Carla, who's like 5 foot tall, is describing what to do for this guy. And he's like, he has a whole lobster, and he cracks the lobster's claw with his bare hands.
Oh, that's crazy.
He's talking about, oh, when I was doing World's Strongest Man, I'd eat 15,000 calories a day. Well, today I only eat 5,000 calories a day. It's like you still eat 3 times the amount of calories that any human should eat in a day. But he's able to talk about it. He's cracking jokes. He's personable. He's such a likable guy. And then they get him out there and they have him talk like the fucking guy from Revenge of the Nerds. Like he can't string a sentence together.
It's true.
Did anybody see this tweet from WWE on Fox for after the Yankee game?
Oh, Triple H is supposed to make an announcement after the Yankee game tonight.
Yeah, about a trade.
Yes, blockbuster trade.
Anyone want to speculate what the fuck this nonsense is?
Not a clue, but it's going to be on S1 after the Yankee game's over.
Yeah, I mean,
It doesn't even matter.
it doesn't. But my wild guess is somehow it gets the Fiend back on Raw.
No.
I don't know. It's got to be. It has to be something that affects a story or a championship. It has to be something. Otherwise, why do we need to know that the Vaudevillains went to 205 Live or whatever the fuck is gonna like? We don't care. Triple H, give us meat.
You know what? I almost feel like, and I hate to say this, but I almost feel like after Cena, there's like no major stars anymore.
Well, no, that's
moving anywhere. It doesn't really matter.
I talked about that before. They invested so heavily in Cena to the detriment of literally everybody else. They killed Umaga for him. Not literally, they caused his death, but they killed the character of Umaga. They built him up nicely, and then they had that Cena squashed him, including the I Quit match, which the fucking guy didn't even speak English. How did he know how to say I quit? Didn't make any goddamn sense. They killed all these guys to put Cena over. They had Cena wrestle Randy Orton 1,000 times. And then when Cena left, they put all their eggs in the Roman Reigns basket. And when Reigns didn't get over, now you have no stars. And that's why I've got a Hogan shirt on. You've got an NWO shirt on. The WWE right now is cashing in on the fact that they own our nostalgia. They own our memories. The NWA tape library, Championship Wrestling from Florida, Mid-South, Jim Crockett, WCW, all the Turner shit, ECW. They own it all. And they can say, hey, remember that great time when Hulk Hogan slammed Andre the Giant? And you're like, fuck yeah, man. Pontiac Silverdome, 93,000 people. But then you go and you turn on Monday Night Raw, and there's 5,000 bored people sitting there while Seth Rollins talks about he's got to burn it down. Nobody
I found the cure for insomnia, and it's called Monday Night Raw.
And yes, and to all those people who go, oh, we'll see you next week. Oh, I haven't watched Smackdown I couldn't even tell you. I didn't watch Raw last week after that abysmal pay-per-view. People are putting their money where their mouth is. It's like there is a certain subset of WWE mark that thinks everybody in the world is just like them, that's always going to tune in, and they're even as much as they complain, they're just never going to stop watching. And that's not true. We're at a point now where on Monday nights, if you don't want to watch Raw, you can watch MLW on YouTube. Tuesday night, you're watching NWA Power, AEW Dark. Wednesday night, you're watching AEW Dynamite. If you want the New Japan World, you can get New Japan World, and then they're leading up to their big Tokyo Dome shows on January 4th and 5th. This is a great time to be a wrestling fan. There's so much wrestling, and in addition to independentwrestling.tv, all these independent promotions get together and stream their events on there for a monthly fee. There's so much content out there.
You got New Japan, you got Ring of Honor, you got all this stuff.
Just, this is now the time to diversify
your bonds.
Right. It's like that Wu-Tang financial segment from Chappelle's show. You got to diversify those bonds. But it is. It's time to just branch out. And even if you still watch, I'm not denying if you watch Monday Night Raw. But if you have an opportunity now to catch something else, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't. Maybe MLW is silly for you. Maybe NWA Power looks silly. But then
I wish Lucha Underground was still a thing.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Did you hear? All their guys are all spread out all over the place anyway.
All over the Indies, NXT, AEW. Did you guys hear? There's supposed to be on Friday a big announcement regarding Japan, but it's not AEW. The speculation is that their WWE is going to announce NXT Japan.
Ooh.
But I just want to know who they're going to get. Are they going to sign? They're going to try and sign away the New Japan guys. I don't know how many of them are going to go.
Yeah, Okada's not going anywhere.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's there's nothing confirmed. That's the speculation. But
Did
If
you
that's
guys
the
see what
case,
Did you guys see what Maria posted on her Instagram?
What?
One, family. Two, I love and support my husband. Three, I make no apologies for either of my pregnancies. Four, Mike never went to rehab, nor did the WWE pay for it. Mike's addiction was from September 2013 to July 2017. We debuted in June 2017. He never took time off. I have not asked for my release. You can unfollow me at any time if you don't like what I stand for. Suck it. P.S. Have a nice day.
I don't get it. I'm very confused right now.
I'm like,
I think
makes no sense what she's saying.
well, I think it's still that people are speculating that Mike and Maria signed with WWE which is not bad. It's just an observation. If sometimes you take a job because the benefits are good. And if the benefits are free drug rehab when you've got a drug problem and maternity leave when you want to have a baby, people start to connect dots that may or may not be there. I don't know. I never asked him about it. That's not my place to ask. But if you're an outsider and you're looking at this, you go, Mike Bennett made one appearance on TV and then on Smackdown and then wasn't seen for like a year. But if you saw him on Instagram, he was talking about recovering from a drug addiction. So people drew the line between, oh, he's not on TV. Oh, he's posting about drug addiction. Zoop, A equals B. And then Maria's off TV because she had a baby, and now she's going to be off TV again because she's had another baby, and people see A and they see B, zoop, and they draw another line. And maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. But guess what? She's right. There's no reason to apologize for having a baby.
And it's none of our fucking business, to be
It's
quite
really not.
honest.
It's not. And here's the thing: if you worked for any other business, you worked in an office building and you got pregnant, they give you maternity leave. And then if you have another baby, they don't just say, well, fuck you and fuck your new baby. They give you maternity leave again because you got pregnant again. That's how this shit works.
Well, it's illegal to do that.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It's not like, I don't know, people are trying to make it sound pretty devious, like they scammed the WWE out of something. I don't know, man. It's fucked up. So she's hot about it, though.
Yeah.
I'm sure every time their contract comes up, that there's a bunch of people online who bring that up. Oh, they only got signed so she could go on maternity leave and they don't have to work and they still get paid.
So,
maybe.
How about Lio Rush?
Oh, good.
Yeah,
for
new cruiserweight champion. They put on a hell of a match too.
You forget how talented he is in the ring.
But
based
he's not
on
being Lashley's little annoying sidekick. He
Right.
can really go.
Yeah, no,
My man.
he was always a good wrestler. The reputation that preceded him was he was a little bit of an asshole. I never saw that, but guess what?
Well, they said it was behind the scenes. He was like
yeah.
an
Like he
arrogant
tweeted
little
about
prick.
the Emma's release and all that,
Right. But I mean, like, from my limited experience of being in the same building and same locker room as Lio Rush, never gave me the impression that he was an asshole. And even if he was, guess what? Some people are assholes. That doesn't mean that they don't do good work.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so weird because WWE is a scripted medium and the characters are not really. Rusev is not really Rusev. You know what I mean? Kane is not really Kane. It's some guy in a fucking wig and a mask. But there's enough of a blur where you see this Lio Rush guy. He's been known as Lio Rush for how many years? And you start to get the line between what he does in the ring and what he says on Twitter and what he does in real life. It all kind of mushes together and it blurs. And
Well,
so
he's in
people
a
start to
Twitter
think,
war with Mike Kanellis right now.
yeah, and Mike Kanellis has deleted all of his Twitter.
Yeah, well, you saw what Lio Rush wrote, right?
Yeah, something about I forget the verbiage, but it wasn't. It was pretty salty.
I get your anger, trust me, but win a match first.
Yeah. And he's still trying to tie it into like the story, which is great. Good for him for working, but like he can only win a match if somebody tells it. Like that's where this all breaks down.
Yeah.
Mike Bennett can win a match the day that Vince McMahon decides that he's going to win a match.
Right.
That's just it.
Maybe
So
it'll be on 205.
yeah, no, unless this is all some kind of big work where Mike goes back to NXT and is challenging for the 205 Live title against Leo. I don't know. I really don't know.
In that case, I'd rather have him fight Adam Cole for the NXT title.
Yeah. No, we're only going to know, we're only going to know the next time Mike Bennett shows up on TV somewhere. Whether it's WWE or another 3-letter promotion, we'll only know when he shows up.
I want to shout out to NWA Power. I watched it. I loved it. The old school feel, like the old Crockett, Tony Schiavone interviews that they used to do.
They replicated that old set to a
Fantastic. And Nick Aldis is great as NWA champion.
He's
basically like this new age Ric Flair in that, like, do you know what his Twitter handle is? It's called "What's Causing All This?" All this.
Oh man, no, he's grown on me. I always thought he was.
They got like Drake, who's great. They've got James Storm. They've got Tim Storm, who up until recently I didn't even know. They got, I think Kennedy's there.
They've got my buddy Caleb Conley is there. They got a lot of people.
They got Allison Kay, the former Sienna. They got Bronze Chick is there. Camille.
Yeah, Camille, the Brick Shithouse or whatever her name is. Yeah, they give her some weird name, but she's with Aldis. Well, for now, they're kind of teasing that they're going to break up. I don't know if she can. I mean, I guess she wrestles. She's just in fantastic shape and is bigger than most of the guys on the show. So I think they can just use her. They can use her however they want, you know. But it's a fun show, man. If you haven't watched it,
throwback really makes me enjoy it. Like, it's a different. What I like about it is a different presentation, because at least within the WWE universe, NXT at least is separate enough to where it has its own feel, whereas Raw and SmackDown kind of just are the same.
Well, yeah, they're different sides of the same coin for sure. Yeah, man, it's
top of the hour.
It is the top of the hour. I would recommend, for real, anybody who has issues with the WWE wrestling stuff, just go seek out something else.
There's other stuff out there. This is a great time. Like Steve said, this is a great time to be a wrestling fan.
Diversify your bonds. That's all. That's all if there's one lesson you take from it today, diversify your bonds. MLW on Mondays, NWA and AEW tonight on YouTube, and tomorrow AEW Dynamite on TNT. You can watch other stuff. It exists. Don't pretend that WWE is the only game in town. They're not. Like, in the last 6 months, we've had a bunch of wrestling promotions pop up and that want a piece of the pie. Goddamn Master P, the No Limit Soldiers, the WCW's worst faction, who was supposed to be baby faces, and the Country Boys were supposed to be heel, but then Rap as Crap came out and completely demolished them.
I love that song.
It's great. So, but Master P bought a promotion, and it's not a big. House of Glory is a good indie. I didn't think it was at Master P is going to buy the promotion level. You know what I mean? Like, I figured it was doing well. I didn't know it was doing Master P is going to buy me well. So that's fucking great for them. And he's saying, oh, Vince McMahon better watch out. And of course, everybody says that. But he's going to take it seriously. Everybody's taking this shit seriously, man. It's good. It's good to see more
options.
Not just wrestling, right? But and financially, they have money behind them. They're not cheap,
right?
You know, it's well done. It's not just somebody with their fucking handy cam filming backyard wrestling. Like, these are real wrestling companies now. So it's good to see.
And for us, like guys like me, Steve specifically, it's almost like selfishly, we want all these things to succeed so WWE can succeed even more. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Iron sharpens iron. Steve, we're at the top of the hour, I assume.
Yeah, that's
all
it.
Right.
Let's wrap it up.
Every hour.
Yeah, we had to give you a little bit of overtime because we started the stream and then I don't know. We'll blame it on Ryan. Somehow we lost it. We lost Amanda. We gained Kat. I don't know what the fuck happened. But we'll be back next week for another edition of the War Report. If you look on YouTube, tag me a date on YouTube. Tag me a date, no spaces. You make it one word. Subscribe, hit the bell. You can follow us if you look for tag me a date. I think is it S Glenwick 2 S Glenwick something on Twitch.
Yeah.
We broadcast live on Twitch and on YouTube. We broadcast on Steve's Facebook. Follow us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, podcasts. If you want an audio version, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher. We're on everything. Just look for Tag Me a Date. If you're on social media or a podcast app or whatever else, at Tag Me a Date, all one word, squished together. You can do it. Now, of course, tagmeadate.com is the first and only dating site exclusively for fans of professional wrestling with a roster of over 75 superstars. 75,000 superstars and divas all over the world. You too can find your tag team match on tagmeadate.com. We already had a Tag Me a Date wedding. They met on the site. They went to a wrestling show. They got engaged. They got married.
We had him on the show.
It was so. Listen, this shit works. Sign up for tagmeadate.com. It's free. We aren't charging money. The apps are free. I don't know if we're on the iTunes store yet. I know we're on the Google store. Whatever. Steve knows more about that shit. But we're at the top of the hour. We'll be back next week live on all the platforms we're live on, especially on YouTube, on the Tag Me a Date YouTube. 7 p.m. on Eastern Time. Adjust your clocks as necessary. Daylight savings time kicks in 2 days after Halloween, right? November 2nd. Mm-hmm. So we're coming up on that. I'll remind people that most of the U.S. is involved in that, but like the UK, like it affects a few people if you're listening. Okay, so just be aware when the daylight savings time thing kicks in. The best way to know is to just subscribe and hit the bell, and when we go live, you'll get an alert on your phone. That's it. That's the easiest way to do it. So we'll be back next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here for another edition of the War Report, brought to you by TagMeADate.com. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next.